We're going to present. All right. So before we jump into the lesson, I better make sure I take attendance. We have no Ruth, today, Ethan and Franklin, William, London, Niall is here, Leah, Ben, Lauren, Cole, Abby, Miller, Lily, Abby, Allison, Caitlin, and Jean. All right. So let me start by saying congratulations. When you finish your animal project, you have finished the most difficult project of Ceramics A. We actually started with the hardest project. What that means is that it's all downhill from here. So I'm excited to move on to the next project today. Not that I'm sick of seeing your animals. Your animals are adorable and you're doing a wonderful job. And you will be able to finish them today. And they are due today. So just a reminder about that. Record your video, submit your artist statement by 3 p.m. But I'm also excited about seeing something new. So we are going to be starting our next project. And this next project involves you going outside a little bit. Although, funny twist, today at 10:10, so in just a few minutes, we're having a lockdown, which means that nobody can go outside. That was unfortunate. But I don't think we'll need to go outside until later in the hour. And only people who are totally done with their animal will be going outside today. Otherwise, the rest of us will go outside tomorrow. So just when you hear that announcement and the talk about the lockdown, basically what that means is we have to lock everybody in so that nobody can get in the building. So I'll be locking that door, and we'll just carry on business as usual during this lockdown, or lock-in, I think it's called. There will also be a fire drill, but that's a different day. And so I don't know when the fire drill is, but if it's during this class, what we'll do is we would leave out that door, because it's obviously like easy peasy to do that. We'll leave out that door. We'll meet at the other side of the staff parking lot. I'll take attendance out there, and then we would come back in through this door. So that's not today. That's another day this week, and I don't know if it's this. We've just been told it's happening. Right. Okay. So you should have a notebook out in front of you. People at home, same. You should have your ceramic notebook out in front of you. Here is what's happening for today. We've got some notes on some new vocab. I'm going to introduce and demonstrate the new project. You're going to have some work time to either start that new project if you're done with your animal, or you're going to be working on your animal. And then for those who are done working on the animal, you might be going outside today to scavenge for some items. And I'll talk about those items in a little bit. All right. So first, you don't have to write this part down because you should already have these in your notes. These are vocab words I want to refresh your memory on. So somebody remind me, what is plasticity? This was part of the quiz. And actually, you guys did really, really well on that quiz. I graded them last night, and you did awesome on that. So who remembers, what is plasticity? What's that property of clay? Yeah, it's moldable, right? It stretches and then holds the shape that you stretch it into. And that's relevant on this project, because for this project, we're going to be stretching the clay in the shape of a bowl, and the clay is going to stay in that shape of a bowl. And we're going to be pressing things into the clay, and that impression is going to remain in the clay because of plasticity. Next term, this is one you should also know. Somebody remind me, what does composition mean? It's one of our later vocabulary words. We talked about there were different types of composition. Yeah.
Static and dynamic.
There were static and dynamic compositions, right, in relation to sculpture, because we just made a sculpture. And it's the way that the objects in the work of art are arranged. And so we're going to talk about composition in a different way for this project. We're going to talk about symmetrical composition and asymmetrical composition. And so that's how you're choosing to arrange the designs on the bowl that you are making. So now here are our new terms. So please, on the next clean page in your notebook, you could write up at the top, new vocabulary, and these 4 new terms. All right, if you haven't finished writing these words yet, keep writing. I'm just gonna jump in. So new term number 1 is mold. A mold can be a lot of different things, but what a mold does is it's an object that allows you to shape the clay perfectly, repeatedly, consistently. It always turns out the same when you use that same mold. So what we're going to use for this project is this type of mold right here. This is made of plaster. We're going to lay the clay over that mold, and when the clay is leather hard, we're going to be able to lift the clay off, and the clay will stay in that bowl-like shape. So the kind of mold that people at home, you each have one of these molds in your swag bag. People who are here, I have a little bucket full of these molds. You're going to be able to pick and choose what kind of mold you want to use. There are big molds, small molds. There's some weirdly shaped molds. If you want a heart-shaped bowl, I have heart-shaped molds. And so the mold is going to give you the shape and size of your bowl for this project. So that's what we're going to be using to make our bowl shape. We are making vessels. So our first project, the animal project, was a sculpture primarily. Now we're primarily making a vessel, which means it's an object that has volume and it's meant to hold something. So the bowl that you end up making might hold your cereal or your salad or your ice cream or your soup or your jewelry or your car keys or whatever you want it to hold. It is primarily meant to hold something, whatever it is that you want to hold. When you have a vessel, you also have a foot and a lip. So a foot is an extra bit of clay added to the bottom that acts to stabilize the bowl so it does not roll. It acts to lift the bowl and make it seem more visually light. And it also absorbs shock. So if you set it down kind of hard, the foot absorbs the majority of that shock.
May I have your attention, please? We are conducting a lockout drill. Lock out, get inside, lock outside doors. Lock out, get inside, lock outside doors.
We were ready for that. So that's a foot. You will be adding a foot to your bowl so it doesn't wobble around. And then the final thing that a vessel has is a lip. A lip is that rim that goes around the pot. And it might seem like kind of a dumb thing to focus on, but it's actually one of the most important parts of the pot. Because when you think about most vessels, you see them sitting on a table. They're below your eye level, so you're looking down on them. And the part that is most glaringly obvious is that lip. So if the lip is really uneven, that's a big problem. So we're going to talk about ways to make sure that your lip looks really good, because it's such a focal point of any sort of vessel. So those are your new terms. Those are terms you're going to hear me using, and I want you to be able to identify and know what they are. And I'm going to expect you to use them too. All right, so you ready to know what we're actually going to do? I haven't really told you yet. So we're going to be making leaf bowls. And the reason that we're doing this is actually clay has a remarkable ability to record the finest little details when you press it into the clay. So we're going to be going out and collecting leaves and other natural items, and we're going to be imprinting that in the clay. And it's kind of up to you what kind of leaves and how you put them in the clay. We'll talk about that today and tomorrow. Also, it's free. Like, there's free leaves out there right now, and it's beautiful out there right now. So what a joy it'll be to walk around through Ojibwe Park today and tomorrow to just look for different kinds of leaves. It'll be fun to imprint into the clay. People at home, you get to go walking around in your neighborhood and looking for leaves to imprint in your clay. Although, don't pick your leaves out of anybody's garden. That would be very problematic. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But again, like, don't pick them out of anybody's garden. If you're picking them out of your garden, ask permission. So here's what I'm talking about. Look at this leaf on the left. And like on any leaf that you find, you'll see this when you're actually collecting leaves today or tomorrow. One side is going to be more textured and veiny, and one side will be more smooth. So obviously we're going to use the more veiny side. And look how that impression is so crisp in that clay. It's astounding, the level of detail that can be recorded in there. It's kind of like a fossil, right? Like that beginning slide, the first slide that you saw when you walked in, was a fossil of a leaf. And really, that's what we're creating. We're creating a fossil, a snapshot in time of this organic bit of matter that won't exist beyond this week, right? So the pot will exist, but the leaf will deteriorate and melt away, but you will have recorded that leaf for all of eternity, right? Because the clay, once it's fired, is incredibly strong. We're still digging up bits of pottery that are left from generations, hundreds and even thousands of years ago. We're finding clay shards. So clay lasts. So essentially, you're making a fossil with this project, which is kind of cool. So here's an example This is probably not what we'll do in terms of like one big leaf being the whole bowl. We probably will not do that because right now, no leaves are that big. Like there's no mature leaves right now because we're still so early in the spring. So what we're gonna do is probably have more like a round bowl, and then we'll imprint our leaves in that round bowl or whatever, you know, your shape of mold is. Here's another good example of what we might be doing. You can take a bunch of smaller leaves and press them in to create an all over pattern. You could take one bigger leaf and press that in for one big pattern. And when it comes to glazing, there's some really neat things we can do to accentuate those leaves. So there's different glazing techniques here that we can do in class when it comes to glazing your work. And if you choose to fire and glaze your bowl, it will become food safe. You'll be able to eat out of it and drink out of it. Well, maybe not drink, but you'll be able to eat out of it. So when you're going out there looking for leaves, either today or tomorrow, the best choices are ones that are flexible. So I wouldn't go and like cut a branch off of a tree because the tree branch might be really hard and inflexible. And we need to be able to imprint this in the clay. Although there were, I just went across the parking lot this morning, and there's a willow tree over there. And this branch is really pretty pliable. So this should work pretty well for imprinting in the clay. In fact, I'm going to try that out today in my demo. So something that's pliable, it has texture to it, interesting shapes, interesting edges. Here are some flowers. These are lily of the valley here, and then I'm not sure what this other flower is. If you're going to choose a flower, it's probably going to imprint better if it's a really like substantial flower. Like if it's really has very thin little petals, it might not imprint very strongly. So you want something that has some power behind it. But we certainly can try all sorts of different things. And if it doesn't work, you just smooth over it and you try again with a new item. So that's something to consider. If you're going to bring in your own leaves or flowers from home, you better wrap them up in like a wet paper towel or something like that to keep them more firm, because the minute you cut them, they're going to start dying. So just finding your leaves here so that you can work on it here. People at home, you'll find your leaves or flowers at home. If your leaves are really tiny, you can put more than one on there and have a different kind of a composition. So you're filling the composition with those different types of flowers or leaves or vines or whatever. Here we talk a little bit more about composition. This is a fern. There's a lot of ferns growing out there right now. And so this would be...
Thank you for your cooperation. It is now completed.
Thank you, Mr. Canton. So this would be a more symmetrical composition where there's a single fern in the middle of the plate. We're doing bowls, of course, so it would be slightly different. But that would be one thing you could do, is just put your plant right in the center and have it be symmetrical balance. Or if you like the tension that asymmetrical balance creates, you could create a design that's kind of more off to one side. And then really, like when you put your food in that vessel, that's what kind of balances it out, because the food will counterbalance the design that's inside that. So we'll talk more about composition tomorrow as well, because we're actually going to start the real thing tomorrow when we all have time to devote to beginning this. Today is going to be more like practicing. A lot of people still need to work on their animals, so that I'm not going to get us all into the actual making of the real bowl today. We'll practice today. We'll make it tomorrow. So here's what we're doing today. This is where I'm going to pause my screen. So your top priority is to finish your animal. And so you know what you need to do with that. I'll leave that to you. If you're done with your animal, you are going to be doing the steps that are in black today. So now that the lock-in is done, you can actually go outside. I will unlock that door so you won't be locked out. And you're going to go on a little nature walk and pay attention to flowers and leaves you see along the way. If you're here with me in class, this should just be a really short walk today, because like I said, we're just practicing today. So maybe spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops, just walking around. I'm going to trust you that you're going to stay close to school, and that you're going to set a timer, and you're going to be back by 10 minutes. And you can pick any leaves or flowers that you find growing wild, kind of in the in the edges of the woods of Ojibwe Park. If it's the part of the landscaping that's around, like the playground or the shelter that's over there, please don't pick any of the landscaping plants, because that belongs to the city and you might get in trouble. But anything that's growing wild, I would say is probably fine. find something that's like for today, maybe it's just a plentiful thing, something you see a lot of, so it's not going to be like you're just snipping the only rare flower growing in Ojibwe Park, you know. Pick something that there's a lot of, and then bring that back to class, and you're going to practice imprinting it, just to really get a really good imprint into the clay today. And that is all we're going to do today. We're just going to practice making that imprints, just kind of see what's out there. And then tomorrow, everyone will get a chance to go out to Ojibwe and collect whatever materials to make their actual bowl. And so since today is the day that the video and the artist statement is due for your animal, I'm not going to ask for a progress picture for today. So if you already turned in your animal video and if you already turned in your artist statement, you will not have anything to turn in today, because technically you already did it yesterday. So just really quickly, come over to table 9. I'm going to demonstrate how you would do that imprinting process. And I'm going to keep the demo real quick. Hey, Val. Val, before you come over, there's lights over by the door. Would you turn on all the lights, please? And pin myself. All right. We'll do this. So this morning I said I found I think this is a weeping willow. Honestly, maybe I'm not sure. It seemed kind of flimsy like a weeping willow, so I grabbed that. I also grabbed a dandelion that's looking pretty sad right now, so I don't think I'm gonna use that. Unfortunately, they just mowed out here yesterday, so all the nice dandelions and like goldenrod and other things that could have been cool growing outside my door are no longer there. I do want to mention there is a tree up on this little hill just outside my door there. Please don't take anything off that tree. That tree was planted in memory of a Spanish teacher who died about 12 years ago. And so in honor of him, please don't take anything off that tree, okay? So I'm just flattening out my clay, and I'm just, because today is not going to be all that serious, like this isn't going to become your actual bowl. I'm not going to try really hard to make this super neat and super even. What I am going to do is I'm going to show people at home, and also people who are here, how to make a slab of clay. And so you do have a rolling pin, people at home. However, I'm not going to show you that today. I'm going to show you the throwing method. So you have your canvas at home. If you pre-flatten your clay like this, and then just throw the clay diagonal away from you, it'll stretch the clay away from you. So I'm going to take my clay, throw it diagonally, it's stretched that way. Then I pick up my clay and I make sure a different side is facing forward, and I throw it again, and now it's stretched that way. And if I pick it up and always throw a different side facing away from me, it's always going to stretch and make a really consistent slab, as long as I'm always throwing a different leading edge forward. So that's a pretty consistent slab. That's about maybe 1/4 of an inch thick, maybe 1/8 of an inch thick. So to imprint my leaf in there, there's no magic to it. I'm just going to kind of position the leaves exactly how I think it might look good. And I'm going to take my rolling pin, and I'm just slowly going to roll that rolling pin across my leaf. I'm trying to press hard enough so the leaf is going in the clay without actually flattening out my clay too much more. So just rolling it back and forth. There's certain, okay, so if this was my real thing, some of my leaves are kind of folded over, and therefore they're not making probably the nicest impression. So if this was on my real clay, I would probably fix that. But then I'm carefully going to peel it all off. And what I see, interesting. What I see is that the stem actually imprinted really nicely, like really clear design, but the leaves were so thin that they really didn't imprint very much at all. So I'm going to take my plastic card, and I'm going to scrape over that. And I'm going to try, I'll try my sad little dandelion. We'll see what that gives. Maybe it'll be amazing. You never know. I'm going to try and imprint the little flyaway things, little seeds, and then the stem is kind of in a weird little curve. Okay, so that's imprinted. I'm going to use, you can use your toothpick at home, or if you're here, we have these needle tools. And so now all those little seeds are actually stuck in there. I'm not going to be able to get those out. So there's a dandelion. If this was the real thing, those seeds could actually stay in there. They would burn out in the kiln. But since I'm gonna practice on this, I'm gonna scrape those seeds off. And then that clay that has the seeds in it, I would just throw that away. We don't want to recycle that. So, so I'm not super thrilled about how either of these turned out. So I would continue to look probably for other shapes, and I would imprint them, practice, kind of see that they work before I get to my real thing. Okay. So then anything you do today, like people at home or people who are here, we're not going to end up keeping this. It's just mainly for practice. So people at home, re-wedge that after you've gotten all the plant organic matter out of there and put it back in your bag for tomorrow. And this stuff will probably not be able to be reused. You'll have to grab new stuff tomorrow. So this can be thrown away. All right. Any questions about what you're doing? Nope. Okay. So I'm going to say people who are here in person, go ahead, get started working on your animals. You have 45 minutes to do so. People who are at home, hang tight. I'm going to very quickly take attendance, see if you guys have any questions, and then I'm going to send you on your way too. Second hour.
Can you put a stay on the Google Meet if she has questions?
Okay.
I can't, I mean, I can if she.
Oh, it's fine. I can take care of it. Yeah. All right. I am going to unpin. Hey, there you all are. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to take attendance really quickly.